Chapter 4. The Many or the Few. The morning sun cast a golden hue over Athens, illuminating its grand temples, bustling marketplaces, and the towering Acropolis that loomed over the city. The streets teemed with life, citizens engaged in heated debates, merchants hawked their wares, and artisans worked tirelessly in their forges and workshops. Unlike Sparta, where discipline ruled with an iron grip, Athens was alive with expression, conversation, and ambition. Nikarkhos rode beside Damon and Thera, his eyes scanning the city. "It's different," he muttered, taking in the vibrancy. Damon stretched his arms. "I like it. Less glaring Spartans, more food stalls. Speaking of which, I'm starving. Let's eat before we find Callista." Thera rolled her eyes. "We have a mission, Damon. We find Callista first, then you eat." Damon feigned a deep sigh. "Spoken like a true Spartan." Nikarkhos smirked but said nothing. His mind was already on Callista, the woman Lykon had sent them to find. The parchment from Lykon stated that Callista worked as a blacksmith's apprentice. Damon, ever the social one, quickly found locals who pointed them toward the blacksmithing district. The air there was thick with the scent of molten metal, ringing with the rhythmic clang of hammers against anvils. They moved from shop to shop, asking for Callista, until Thera finally found a woman fitting the description. She stood near the forge, her arms crossed, soot smudged along her sharp cheekbones and brow. Her dark hair, streaked with copper from the forge's glow, was tied in a loose braid, though stray strands clung to her sweat-dampened skin. Her tunic, though simple, bore the unmistakable burn marks and oil stains of someone who worked the forge herself rather than merely observing. Her hands, strong, calloused, and nicked with small scars, spoke of years shaping metal with precision. There was a fire in her amber eyes, keen and assessing, as she wiped her brow with the back of her wrist, looking Nikarkhos and the others over with suspicion. "Who's asking?" she said, her voice carrying a sharp edge, despite the tired undertone beneath it. Nikarkhos stepped forward. "I'm Nikarkhos. Lykon sent us." Callista's gaze hardened. "Lykon? Haven't heard that name in a long time." "He told me you'd help." She hesitated, studying him before finally nodding. "Lykon saved my life once. He said you'd come, and I owe him. That's the only reason I'm listening. What do you want?" "The blessed dagger of Athena," Nikarkhos said. "Do you know where it is?" Callista let out a sharp breath. "I do. But before I take you there, answer this. What happens after? What will you helots do once you overthrow the Spartans?" Nikarkhos blinked. We'll make the Spartans suffer, the way they made us suffer. Make them see what it's like to be worked until the ache in your bones prevents you from sleeping at night, and you must watch your brothers and sisters bound to the same fate." Callista's expression turned cold. "So, you replace one system of oppression with another. Why would I help you destroy a system just to reinstate the same cruelty in your favor?" Nikarkhos had no answer. His entire life had been consumed by vengeance, by the need to make the Spartans pay. He had never considered what came after. Callista smirked. "I'll help you, but first, you attend a lecture with me?" Damon raised an eyebrow. "A lecture?" "Yes," Callista said. "By Pericles. If you're planning a revolution, you need to hear what real leadership sounds like." Nikarkhos hesitated, then nodded. "Fine." The Agora, Athens' central gathering place, buzzed with energy. Pericles, the renowned warrior and statesman, stood at the center, addressing a growing crowd. His voice carried across the square with clarity and authority. "A great city does not belong to a single ruler or a privileged few," he declared. Power is safest in the hands of the many rather than the few. We Athenians shape our own destiny. We do not rule through force. We rule through the trust and will of our people." A murmur rippled through the audience. Then a man in fine robes stepped forward, arms crossed. "And yet, Pericles, the rule of the many is nothing but chaos. Democracy grants power to the uneducated, the weak, and the foolish. A city should be guided by its strongest minds, by those who understand governance, war, and philosophy. Oligarchy ensures stability." Pericles turned to face him, his expression calm but firm. "And who decides who these strongest minds are, Aristarchus? The few who already hold power? The ones who benefit from keeping others beneath them?" Aristarchus smirked. "Better to have a wise few lead than to let farmers and blacksmiths make decisions for the entire city." Pericles raised a hand. "And yet these farmers and blacksmiths build our walls, forge our weapons, and harvest our grain. Without them, our city falls. Are they not worthy of a voice? Democracy is not without flaws, but it ensures that those who contribute to society have a say in its future. It ensures that power is not hoarded, but shared." Aristarchus scoffed. "And when the mob is swayed by emotions rather than reason, when it makes decisions out of fear rather than wisdom?" Pericles nodded. "It is true that democracy requires education, discourse, and vigilance, but tyranny and oligarchy require only blind obedience. Democracy, flawed though it may be, gives men the right to shape their own fate. You fear the voice of the people because you fear what happens when the many no longer serve the few." He let his words settle, then continued, his voice resolute. "Oppression cannot be defeated by replacing it with another oppressor. If we fight for justice, it must be justice for all, not just the victors." Silence fell over the crowd. Then, one by one, heads nodded. Murmurs of approval spread. Nikarkhos listened, arms crossed sternly. But something stirred within him. The words of Pericles painted a vision so different from Sparta's rigid rule, or the Nixidos' simple dream of vengeance. After the speech, Callista found Nikarkhos deep in thought. "You're thinking about what comes after now, aren't you?" she said. Nikarkhos exhaled. "I don't know what to think." Callista gave a knowing smile. "That's a start." The next morning, Callista led them to Athena's temple. She played the part of a blacksmith on official business, delivering materials on behalf of her master. Nikarkhos, Damon, and Thera posed as her assistants. The temple guards eyed them suspiciously, but ultimately allowed them entry. Inside, the temple was awe-inspiring. Gold and marble gleamed in the soft torchlight. Carvings of Athena adorned the pillars, and at the center of the room, behind a reinforced glass case, lay the blessed dagger. A shimmering aura surrounded the weapon, as if the air itself bent to its presence. Callista expertly picked the lock while Nikarkhos stood guard. When the case clicked open, Nikarkhos reached for the dagger and felt it resist. A sudden force recoiled against his grip. A warning, a rejection. His fingers trembled as the aura pushed him back. Then a whisper, a woman's voice, strong and commanding. "You seek vengeance, but do you seek justice?" The presence of Athena filled his mind. The resistance wavered, but did not fade. Nikarkhos willed himself forward. "I fight for my people. I fight to end their suffering, and for a better world." The aura flickered. He grasped the dagger again. This time, it allowed him. The blessed dagger of Athena was his. They exited the temple swiftly, but the moment they stepped onto the marble steps, An arrow struck Callista in the shoulder. She let out a cry, stumbling as blood spread across her tunic. Spartan scouts emerged from the rooftops and alleyways, waiting for them. Damon unsheathed his dagger. "Damn it! It's an ambush!" Thera pulled Callista behind cover as more arrows rained down. Nikarkhos gritted his teeth, gripping the blessed dagger as he prepared to fight. The Spartans had found them.